Okay, the shir is Lili Nishmas.
Shalom Moshe ben Rav Yaakov.
Shalom Moshe ben Rav Yaakov. Shalom shall have ben Aliyah. Michael Chayil. Schuso Yogin Aleinu. All right, as we continue this series where we're doing something different, social justice, affirmative action, and giving equal time to the long neglected biblical criminal community. Right? And so we're up to this is part number 4. We're up to the Dor HaMabul, right? The generation of the flood. So this is that they are just in a league onto their own because they caused the whole world to go down. They took the whole world down with them. It's amazing, something which no other generation had done or will do ever again, interestingly enough, because after this happens, HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes a shvuah, never again. So it means there's something unique in a negative way about this generation that can never be duplicated afterwards. Right? So you have to understand, what they did that was so wrong, and get a little bit of a glimpse of what may have changed after the Mabul. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu took a shvuah. No matter what happens, I'm never doing this again. Now, of course, the most interesting question to raise is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu punishes midah keneged midah, measure for measure, a punishment that fits the crime. All right, so they were a bit promiscuous, a lot promiscuous, and they were stealing. What's the midah keneged midah? You get flooded. Why a flood? Well, what is it that HaKadosh Baruch Hu said that because of this, he's going to destroy the world, dafka, with flooding the world? What's the midah keneged midah? They did promiscuity and they did gezel. Okay. Now, I was advised by people in my household. They say, you're talking about now, you're talking about the Mabul, and we're already holding in Sefer Shmos. I want you to skip to Paro, right? Keep. No, that would have been a mistake. That would have been a mistake, big mistake, because interestingly enough. Right, the famous Gemara in Chulin that most people don't spend enough time on because they like the continuation. There's a Gemara in Chulin everyone learns Purim time. Right, Daf Kuf Lamed Tes. It opens up Moshe Rabbeinu min HaTorah minayin, and then after that it goes into Haman min HaTorah minayin and Hamina 8 and Esther min HaTorah minayin Vanochi Aster Esther Pani. Of course, that's like why people learn that Gemara Purim time. All these remazim, to the characters of Purim, all before they lived in the Chumash. But the whole thing opens up really with Moshe min HaTorah minayin. Let's see a remez to Moshe Rabbeinu even before he was born. So the remez is from the Gzeira of the Mabul, the pasuk at the end of Parshas Bereshis, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu is now decreeing the Mabul. Lo yadun ruchi ba'adam le'olam b'shagamu basar yamav 120 shana. I'm not going to contend with man forever, for he is flesh. They have 120 years. They have 120 years to do tshuva. Otherwise, I bring the Mabul. Right? So that's a remez to Moshe. B'shagam, for he is b'shagam is gematria Moshe. So the gzeira of the Mabul is really a remez to Moshe Rabbeinu. Right? All right, now the Zohar already points out. We're going to discuss this a little bit later in the evening, but just to whet your appetite, Moshe Rabbeinu was in a teva. He was in an ark. His sister built him an ark, and that's how he got saved. And that's how he got adopted by Bas Paro. And in small, the finality of Yetzias Mitzrayim, the final blow to Mitzrayim, and which completed our liberation was what? Kriyas Yamsuf. They got flooded. So there's definitely a parallel. So we can't really understand what's going on. And if you really, think about it, that's sort of, what's in the background of what's going on, that Paro himself said, Kol ben hayora tashlichu, to throw the boys into the water. There's something, about the Dor HaMabul in the background that's being, loose ends are being tied up with Yetzias Mitzrayim, as we will try to explain. So now, everyone knows from Pirkei Avos, the Perek Chamishi of Pirkei Avos opens up with a very cryptic Mishnah. Ba'asara ma'amoros nivra olam, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world with 10 utterances. What do we learn from this? God could have created the world with one utterance. He's of infinite power. But rather to take, is a reason for him to actually take vengeance, to punish the Rishonim that destroy a world that was created with Asara Ma'amos, with 10 utterances. And to give good reward to tzaddikim who uphold a world that was created with Asara Ma'amos. It all sounds nice, but what does it mean? Right? That because the world is, Ba'asar Ma'amos, that's why there's schar va'onish. That's what's being said over here. Reward and punishment, right, is because the world was created with 10 utterances and not one. Explain it to me. Why is that the case?
It's saying greater reward and greater punishment. It's not saying to be constant whatsoever. It's just saying there was higher stakes because more effort went into creating it. So therefore, if you maintain it, you get more reward, and if you destroy it, you get more punishment.
Right. Okay.
It still would be schar va'onish, just not as great, just not as magnified.
You say to give more. Okay, but I'm going to go with the derech of the Maharal and the Ramchal, not that they say exactly the same thing, which is indeed that we're talking about really the whole mitzias of schar va'onish. But before we get back to that, what's the very next Mishnah? Right after, on the tail of this Mishnah, Asara Doros Me'adam Ad Noach. Right? Lodia kam erech apayim lefanav shekol hadoros hayu machisin uboyim ad shevi alem esmei hamabu. What?
Going like that, increasing in their gravity.
That's right. So interesting that the 10 doros are parallel to the Asara Ma'amoros, right? Achivir Mea Mabu. Right? So now you get, the world was created with Asara Ma'amoros. The world got destroyed at the culmination of 10 doros, and it's called Hevi Alem Esmei Hamabu. Right? So now, one thing is for sure, where, if they're undoing creation, and we have to explain how, right? In these 10 generations, they're undoing what God did with the 10 Ma'amoros. You know how the world started off at the first instant. Water everywhere. Water everywhere. Like a marble. Water everywhere, then, light, but there's still water everywhere. Second day, he splits the waters. And then, that's the creation of open space. Third day, he, exposes the land. That mamish, the world regressed back to like the first day of creation. Right? It's something amazing to think about. And really, we should really ask this question also, right? Why did the world start off that way? The very first moment when, matter was created, HaKadosh Baruch Hu caused matter to come into existence out of nowhere. It was a state of water everywhere. And then he started, curtailing it, and confining it. There is a, it's
Formless substance.
Yeah.
It's Yetzirah and Bria.
Right. Right. There is an interesting medrash that says that before HaKadosh Baruch Hu created Adam, right, Hayakiluso ole min hamayim, God's praise came from the mayim, as we say in the Shir Shal Yom of Yom HaShishi, right? Mikolos mayim rabim adir mishper yom adir b'amar Hashem. The waters say adir b'amar Hashem. Then kevad shenivra adam hayakilusa olem min adam. When after God created man, now He wants to get praise from man, but then it didn't work out with man, right? Didn't work out with man, right? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I go back to the water, and that's Hashem lamabu yashav, right? Going back, and then the Medrash gives a mashal, right? That a king had a palace and was staffed by deaf mutes, but they were good workers. And then he thought, I'd probably be more impressive if I had, normal people that could speak staffing the palace. But what did the normal people do? Staffing the palace. Deep state, right? Right? They try to overthrow the king, right? Right? And so the king kills them all and says, I'm bringing back the mutes, right? So that's also HaKadosh Baruch Hu created. He wants his kilusa olam in Adam from the medaber, the Adam that speaks. right? As it's not working out, Hashem lamabul yashav, I'm going back to the water. So it's really what we're pointing out is really the Mefurish in the Medrash, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu regressed back, brought everything back to the first day of creation when Kilusaya Ola Min Hamayim, but after that, he could go back to the Adam, after that, with Noach and his kids, and we're going to try to explain how the transition, now man will work out. Yes?
I think interesting from just thought on me is man is, the creation of man is actually in water. The majority of the element
Yeah.
that's the highest amount in a body is water. All the
Yes.
cells that go to water, everything comes from
Yes.
water.
Yes, it's true. Right, so let's talk about the Mishnah again. The Basara Ma'amars Nivra Ola Halo B'Ma'amar Echad Yachol Li Baros. Right. So, going in the derech of the Ramchal, the Maharal says something a little bit along the similar lines, but going with the Ramchal, is the Ramchal says in the Das Funas, just try to imagine, as it were, mathematically, one Ma'amar, right, for all the different creations, right, as opposed to 10, right, 10 Ma'amars that you are limiting and you are restraining. One Ma'amar, Yehi Or only makes Or, right? A utterance, divide utterance. Right, like Vayom Elokim, right? One, it only creates light. This one only makes, Yikavu Amayim, etc., etc., etc. He says you're really talking about the difference between finite power and infinite power, right? To say like this, that there is, even though me and you can't do this, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as it were, even though he's of infinite power, and B'Ma'amar Echad Yachol Li Baros would be like a magical statement, it would be magic, and he's not using what we would call magic. He's doing something that at least fits within the framework of mathematics, of cause and effect. One Ma'amar, a particular cause, creates a particular effect. Particular Ma'amar, particular effect. It means the world is made up of units. Maybe units that are too big for me and you to handle. We would never be able to do this ourselves. But we're talking relative to God, right? He's right. Distinct and separate cosmic forces, as opposed to one Ma'amar that creates a lot of different things. You'd be dealing with infinite power, and the world wasn't created there with infinite power. It's created with finite power. Seemingly. We're going to get into this, we're going to discuss this a little bit deeper in a second. So, says the Ramchal like this, right, and then we're going to move to the Maharal. But says the Ramchal like this, right, if we would live in a world that was built that God would use his infinite power to create, right, that's a world that would be way too big for us to understand, right? The very fact that we could have some type of comprehension and appreciation of the world around us is because, we could get definitions. These definitions are constantly changing, and that's because behind this quantifiable world is really infinite energy, and we're going to get into that in a second. But seemingly, like every generation had their handle on reality. Their biology, their chemistry, their physics, they made Seder. They made order out of life, right? Because the world seemingly is even though me and you can't build the world, but God did not use absolute infinite power in making the world, because it's a world we couldn't understand, right? A world you'd like hold your hand in front of your face and not understand what you're seeing. Right? Everything would be just too big, right? Too big, be outside of any framework of cause and effect that you can make order out of. Right? But here's the bigger point. Right, aside from the fact that it gives us appreciation, right? That there's a framework that we could sort of wrap our heads around. I mean, we're constantly improving and improving, but it's possible to have a appreciation, even though the appreciation is constantly expanding, because ma rabu ma'asech Hashem. But nonetheless, there is a appreciation every door, lefi, where their seichel reaches. Right? But more importantly, is since the world is, a world of units, right? You could add to it and you could detract from it. A world that was built on infinite power, says the Ramchal, you wouldn't have to worry about global warming, right? I don't know if you have to worry about it now either. I'm just saying, right? It's infinite power, but it's not a world that you could affect. It's not, because there's everything is infinite energy, right, fueling existence, that's not a world you could destroy. But it goes the other way also. It's not a world you could contribute to either. Right? It's more than perfect. Right? And by the time you want to catch up and give something, it already expanded past that point. Right? So it says the Ramchal, right, the idea of the Asar Ma'amars created the whole reality of reward and punishment. Right? That it's possible to destroy a world, right? God forbid, right? And to give schar tovatim shemekaimim olam. But if the world had been created b'ma'amar echad, that means the world had been fueled by infinite power, even by our perception, infinite power, and it's not a world that we could affect. Now, there's a interesting Gemara, right? Because it's very important to understand also about. But let me just drop a hint for those whoever have dabbled in basic Kabbalistic concepts. This is what we call the Eser Sfiros. These 10 Ma'amars are called the 10 Sfirot. The Sfira is Miloshin Mispar, the Mekubalim say, numbers. Right? That now of course numbers, numbers themselves are not quantities; they're concepts. Right, like 3. I say 3. You'll say 3 what? 3 pounds, 3 kilometers. And that's the secret of what we do Seder night. Echad miyodea, shnayim miyodea. Like what really is behind the idea of 1. What really is behind the idea of 2. Right, but now ein kan makam laharich another time. Right, but numbers are concepts that facilitate quantity. They themselves are not quantities; they're ideas. But quantities come from those ideas. So it's very important to understand HaKadosh Baruch Hu is of infinite power, and he never stops being of infinite power. And the fact that he works, and he emanates spheres, that doesn't mean he has in any way made himself in any way finite. Because the spheres, anyway, they're not quantities. They're ideas. They're ideas. But even behind these ideas lays infinite power. And with this we get into, in mathematics, we talk about the things like the irrational number, right? Or we talk about Zeno's paradox, like you shoot a arrow at a door, how does it ever get there? Right? It has to, it has to go through infinite fractions, right? Half, 3/4, 7/8. How does it ever get there, right? So, so what's the answer to that? Right? Because, look, numbers are concepts, right? But quantities are quantities. So the fact that you could divide up into, many different types of fractions, that's all in the mind. That you could do that mental activity of dividing something beneath self. That's a mental activity. But in physicality, it's as big as it is. Right? So, but numbers themselves, they lend themselves to these interesting ideas, like the irrational number you could spend your whole life writing out, and you're not finished writing it. Or like the idea of infinite fractions between 2 numbers, because the numbers themselves are concepts that, and behind those concepts is infinite power, and that's why these interesting paradoxes emerge. And this, the Mekubalim have all said this, and this was explained to me by my sainted Rebbe of Moshe Shapira, Zecher Tzaddik V'Kar Shavracha, whose yortzeit was just very recently. So now, this is a Gemara in Chagiga. Gemara says that at the time that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world was expanding in infinite proportions. Ad shegar bo HaKadosh Baruch Hu v'amar dai. HaKadosh Baruch Hu screamed at creation and said, "Die, enough." And that's where the name Shakai, right? It is an acronym. Sha'amar la'olamo dai. HaKadosh Baruch Hu told the world, "Stop." Right? And with this, we have another connection to this week's parsha. And we'll try to get into that. I forgot to bring my parsha sheet. I addressed that in my parsha sheet. Anyone who wants my parsha sheet, give me your email address on my way out, and I'll send it to you. Anyway, but this Gemara in Chagiga is demonstrating the same point, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu Be'etzem is of infinite power, and that's why the Bria Be'etzem naturally was going to expand in infinite proportions. HaKadosh Baruch Hu superimposed, right, limitations. Amar lo lamo dai, right, and that was for our benefit, just for our benefit. And that's what the Asar Ma'amaros are. The HaKadosh Baruch Hu superimposed externally. He himself always is of infinite power. He never stops being of infinite power. He imposes externally on the infinite power this, idea of units and boundaries, right? And it's for the purpose of, keeping the world in check, right? In check in a way that, we could understand, we could appreciate, and we could contribute to. But of course, the flip side of that is, we could also destroy. So now you can understand a little bit of why in the first instant of creation, it was water everywhere, right? It's an amazing thing, right? That so first of all, spatially, right? The whole space was filled with water, but water itself is, as someone pointed out, it's not in boundaries, right? Boundaries includes, not just, first of all, physical shape, and water doesn't have it, but any distinct characteristics are also boundaries, because it's this and not that. It's red and it's not blue. It's blue and it's not red, right? And water is, the idea that it's colorless means that it includes all colors. Right, is the idea that the Sfarim say. The idea of colorless, they say, is that just the opposite. It's inclusive of all colors. That's why itself does not have a color. Right? It has no shape. That means any shape could come from it. Right? The water is, beyond boundaries. Right? And water was indeed everywhere. There were no boundaries. That's what the pasuk says in Tehillim. Gvul samta bal ya'avorim bal yashuvim lechasas sarts, by the creation of the seas. You put a gvul, right? That they shouldn't come back and they shouldn't cover the earth, right? But at the first moment of creation, there were no gvulim, right? There were no boundaries. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu is, as it were, imposing boundaries, as he's giving tzura, as he's giving form. Tzura is also milashon tsar. He's compressing things into distinct shapes and distinct patterns. He's, being meitzar, he is shrinking things and forcing them into patterns. And like I said, that was all for our benefit. It's what facilitates avoda, right? We would have nothing to do in this world, right? Excuse me?
Oh, I was thinking about the word Mitzrayim, which is tsar.
Right, very good.
And Yam also.
Right, meitzar, yeah, yes, correct. Right track. Right. Yeah, all right, there's the idea of giving the world form, and that's for the purpose of avoda. Right? But we want to eventually reach the madrega of getting past all these boundaries. These boundaries are necessary for now, because we need to do work. And in a world without boundaries, there's nothing to add, nothing to detract, because everything is everywhere. There's nothing to put together, nothing to separate. Right? But la'asid lavo, in the future, right? We talk about that, right? That varikosi lachem bracha ad bli die. Now Amar lo lamo die, but in the future, varikosi lachem bracha ad bli die. Ad sheyivlu sifsachem milomar die. No, you're going to manage, the lips are going to wear out saying die. Right? We want to reach that level of unlimited blessing. HaKadosh Baruch Hu does want to share with us His infinite power. That's in the future. Right? Seikim yoshvim v'atrosem barosheim v'nehenim miziv ashchina, and that goes on and on. And right, and everyone knows the pasuk umola oretz deas Hashem kamayim layam mechasim. Right? Everyone will be full of knowledge about like how the sea covers, water covers the sea. Right? Sort of going back to, but going back to it when we're ready for it. Going back to when we're ready, because we have built kalim, we have built vessels to contain that unmitigated light through doing our avodas Hashem, through doing our mitzvahs. We have added, when we had the opportunity to add to the bria and to ourselves, we built special kalim. Right? We built vessels that will be able to contain that infinite experience. That's what our avodas Hashem does. It builds our chelek l'olam haba that lasts forever and ever. Right? But that's after we've done the avoda. When we do the avoda, then we could be zochet to get the infinite. Right now, we are, the infinite is hidden behind units for you, to do whatever you can do and earn whatever you can earn. And then whatever you do, those kalim subsequently are able to varikosi lachem bracha. I will pour out bracha ad b'li die. But our avodas Hashem makes those kalim, to be makabel, the or of Olam Haba, to be makabel when HaKadosh wants to give us a taste of his infinity. Right? But we have to build the vessels, the instruments to be able to appreciate it. That's what we build with our mitzvahs. So first we have to live within the units, right? To navigate through that maze. And if you go with these rules, you work with these units, that you navigate through that maze, and you will get the infinite experience. Right? And that's where the Torah is supposed to take us. The Torah is supposed to take us to that level. And because Torah comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? It is his will, it is his wisdom. HaKadosh Baruch Hu shared his divinity with us by giving us the Torah. But what did the Torah give us? A lot of laws. A lot of laws. A lot of gvulim. A lot of, constraints. And we have mitzvah saseh also, but it's not hefker. You can't do the mitzvah saseh the way you feel like. There is a seder, right? And that's why Jewish law, we may have mentioned, is called halacha. It's how to navigate the maze of reality. You want to get past the units to the infinity that's behind the units, this is the way to go. You can't, there is no other path, right? If you work with the halacha, right, that's the roadmap, right? So the Torah itself, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu shared his divinity with us, like the famous Chazal, Anochi, as in Anochi Hashem Elokecha, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu by Matan Torah, Anochi is Nutrikun, it's an acronym, Ana Nafshoi Kas. I took myself, I wrote myself down, gave myself over, that Torah is a taste of God's divinity, and the Torah came with a lot of rules, boundaries. No shortcuts. That's the way you do it. That's the way you, right? First, do something, make something from yourself, make something from the world, and what you add, those are going to be your eyes to see the infinite light. Right? That's going to give you your kalim. Right? So really, we do want to get to beyond the boundaries, the ad beli dai, but there's no shortcuts. You first do your job, right? And you accomplish, and what you've built for yourself, that's with those instruments that you built with yourself through your good deeds. Those are your kalim to have some type of kinyan, some type of acquisition in the infinite light that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does indeed want to share. Right? The Gemara says in this, I believe Sanhedrin, the Gemara says, there's a pasuk in Iyov, Ma shakai ki na'avdenu. Who is Shakai? That we should serve him. Ze dor hamabul. As Chazal darshan those words on dor hamabul. Ma Shakai, right? She na'avdenu. Who is Shakai that we should serve him? Right? The dor hamabul. If you want to get into like the crux of what they were about is they did not want any constraints. They did not want to, and that's the idea of the, promiscuity, and the idea of gezel, right? Nothing earned. They wanted, a free-for-all. You just take what you want. No boundaries. Makes no difference if it's someone else's wife. Makes no difference if it's someone else's money. Right? It was, should be no boundaries. They just took God's blessing and they ran with it. They weren't in any way willing to constrain themselves, right? And play by the rules, right? They were out of control. They were taking, and as there's an interesting Rabbi Yonasan Eibschitz in the Yaros Devash, I believe it is, interesting drasha. Everyone's heard, about the legend of Olympus, right? The Greek mythology, right? And there's like these, human form gods, one with beauty and one with strength and one with, says Rabbi Yonasan Eibschitz, that Greek mythology are faint memories of Dor HaMabul. It's not, people thought eventually that they're just, fairy tales. No. That's what was going on, right? They were looking to tap into the cosmic energies, take it and run with it, right? You also know that there were the fallen angels, the Nephilim that came to earth, and they taught them the usage of divine names and lahavdil incantations, and they were drawing hashpos upon themselves of strength and of beauty. And the whole thing, he says, all these stories that the Greeks have about Olympus, these are faint memories that they have that humanity retained from the Dor HaMabul. That's what was going on over there. Like, things were seriously out of control. And they were just looking to take and run with it. no concept of self-restraint. Now, there actually is a certain, like we said, there is a certain positive drive to that, right? Because that should be the she'ifa, the aspirations of a human being, that he should want more, but he should want more of of Gilui Shechina, want more divine revelation, want more Kesher to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, want more Kedusha and Bracha, right? But they took that drive, right? And it was totally and applied it, purely to their taivas, right? So with this you could begin to understand, right? The midah keneged midah that there was, that they were punished with a mabul, right? Right? They were out to erode the tzura of the world because they found it constraining, and that's why they did some serious messed up stuff there. The only ones who do that is like the leftists. This type of promiscuity, interspecies mating. The Chazal tell us that there are some amazing creatures that walk the earth because of interspecies mating over there and things like that. The idea of no boundaries, pushing things to the limit, and in course of that, they eroded the whole tzura, right? The whole shape, a shape a society should have, let alone the shape of an Eved Hashem. Like the world had no tzura to it. It's like water, right? No order, right? And they got punished midah keneged midah with a flood, right? But it goes deeper than that. Right? It goes deeper than that. That this was a certain cutoff point, right? I should say before we take it one step deeper, right? That everyone knows that the Sfarim work with the idea of 4 elements, which I don't mean elements like like the periodic table. The Arba Yesodos are things more like what we call solid, liquid, gas, energy, states of existence. Kayadua, But so the Sfarim, the Musar Sfarim all say that from the Yesod HaMayim, from the element of what we call water, even though it's talking about not the water that we know, it's talking about a cosmic force, water, comes taiva, right? Desire. Desire comes from that element, right? Now a person should have desire, but for someone nafshi lelokim lekel chai, desire for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? Be thirsty for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Right? They were just taking desire for desire's sake, and they were running with it, which comes from the Yesod HaMayim, and therefore midah keneged midah, right? They got swamped with water, right? But there's something else that's nimshal l'mayim. So taiva is nimshal l'mayim. What else? Torah is nimshal l'mayim. Right. And of course, Torah is nimshal to a lot of things. But right now we're in the talking about Torah is nimshal l'mayim, right? That and it has to do with this idea, right? That Torah, aside from the fact that it's as important to the world as water, but aside from that, is that Torah is supposed to eventually get us with the power of Torah. We're going to transcend all the boundaries of Olam Hazeh, but only if you drink it to the extent that you can handle it. Everyone knows the famous Gemara that people should find cryptic, but now you could understand it a little bit. Zacha nasal samachayim. Lo zacha naso samov. So there's a concept that don't learn Torah with that guy. He's going to misuse it. It's only going to make him worse, right? Talmud sheinu hagun. Lo zacha naso samamoves. Why? Because he's just going to use whatever he learns to rationalize what he wants to do wrong. He's going to use it for his taivas, right? So you're going to use the Torah to direct you, right? Or the Torah is going to direct you, or you're going to use the Torah for your own agenda, right? Now, there's no coincidence that there's 10 generations parallel to the Asara Ma'amoros. Right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to actually give the Torah to the Dor HaMabul, and that's why the Remes to Moshe Rabbeinu, right, is there at the Dor HaMabul, B'Shagam U'Basar. Right? The Rebbe Shalom, just like he created the world with 10 utterances, he wanted the world to reach perfection and be ra'ui, merit matan Torah within 10 generations. The neshama of Moshe Rabbeinu was there in the Dor HaMabul. If they would have been worthy, right, they would have gotten Torah. They would have gotten the Mayim Ein Mayim El Torah. That's what they would have gotten, right? Torah that's supposed to bring you, and that you work with the Torah to become worthy of infinity. But you work with it, but you have to work within the confines. Shakai ki na'avdenu. You worship Shakai, the one Sh'amar lo Amadai. You have to have constraints. You got to play by the rules. But you work with the halacha. You work with the dinim. Through that, you can navigate to getting to infinite power. Right? But they didn't want. They just wanted the shortcut, straight to, the infinite. Without the work beforehand, without the work. Right? Right? So because of that, the problem is that without the work, you get nothing, right? Because the divinity, right, the divine energy that's hiding behind anything, you only tap into that through halacha, through keeping the mitzvahs. You try to get it, without doing work, you get nothing. You just get the physical experience, without any of the spiritual value. You can only tap in to the spiritual energy if you go with the halacha. Right? And they didn't have patience for that. They wanted to break all the boundaries and go straight to the infinite. Right? So there is a Lashon Chazal that says that the Mea Mabul was actually a manifestation of Torah. Right? Because lo zacha nasis lo sama mavis, right? That the Mea Mabul was actually a manifestation of Torah, but because they didn't have kalim to take it, it drowned them. Like so lo zacha nasis lo sama mavis, right? Right? You want without boundaries. I'll give you without boundaries. You'll see you can't handle it because we build the kalim to be able to take it, right? We build through keeping halacha. Right? Through constraining ourselves. We actually, we actually build the certain qualities in ourselves and in the world that we could have a connection to the infinite energy. Right? So now this door comes at the end of a set of 10 that was created, out of pure chesed. Right? Right? Man had no claim on deserving life. Why? Because God created him. Right? Did Adam deserve to be created? What do you mean deserve to be created? He was created, out of nowhere. Right? There was no concept of deserving. There was no concept of earning. Right? And they had to discover the idea of earning by themselves. Like they knew, they were 10th generation. It's not too long ago the whole world was created out of nowhere. Ki lo'olam chasto. And they were counting on that. They were counting on God's kindness, and they wanted to just milk it for everything. And that's another thing, the Yesod HaMayim is Keneged Chesed, Kayedua, right? Mayim Chesed, Eish Gvura, Eish Din, right? They were relying on God's pure kindness. Hey, He created the world. No one earned it. No one earned being created. It was all done by pure divine Chesed. So let's milk it for all it's worth. Pure Chesed. No avoda, no being zoche. Zoche is a concept of din, being zoche.
It says unconstrained chesed. That's why we use the sadi narva chesed who by certain by rayas.
That's still
chesed.
true.
But-
That's still true.
Yes.
We're not born because we deserve it.
Yeah. Except, but here's the thing, and this is the Beis Yaakov from Ishbitza makes this interesting point, right? That it's both psychologically but also philosophically, right? When first being created, no one ever earned being created, right? So they knew, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world out of pure chesed. The world didn't earn being created. So who says you have to earn at all? Let's just, go with it, go with it. Chesed, rely on divine chesed and not have to give anything in return, not do any work, not do any earning, which that's all din. Right? So now, Noach and his children, aside from psychologically, they learned the lesson, and mankind was, on a certain level, totally impacted and scared out of their boots from that time onwards until Bilam, right? That Chazal tell us that after the Mabul, they learned the lesson, the whole mankind, and they were actually very self-restraining. There was one exception to the rule where they were a little bit lax in this. That was Mitzrayim, right? But
Say that. I'm saying that like the Sodom and Amorah say that was the fact that they were so stingy that there was a reaction to the Dora Mabul.
Exactly, they wanted to go to the opposite extreme. Absolutely. stone, right, right. Yeah, each one took their own lesson and they took it in their own strange way, right? But there was, as it were, they were, both in Klali, the Lashon Chazal, Godru Atzmam, the nations world, Gadru Atzmam. They took on constraints. They did Gedarim. You should know, by Noahide law, Hilchos B'nai Noach, a father is allowed to marry his daughter, right? Noahide law, Hilchos B'nai Noach. A father's allowed, a mother can't marry a son, but a Av can marry a Bas, right? It's not one of their Arayas, right? It's not one of their Arayas, right? It's, I'm just saying, interesting halacha. So that which by, what?
Where do you see this? Where is this?
It's a Gemara. It's a Ram. I'll show it to you in Hilchos Melachim. It's not one of their Arayas. A father can marry a daughter, right? So just that, when Lot had the story with his daughters, the fact that Avram Avinu was so embarrassed he had to move away. So the Mefarshim say that was because it was a minhag. They were after the Mabul, they were very prudish and they took on Gedarim. They even took on, as it were, for lack of a word, the Rabbanans, and they were geyser. They were geyser. Father shouldn't marry a daughter, as another siag for Arias, right? That's how affected they were, until came who? Bilam, and Bilam, advised the Benos, Midjan to be promiscuous, right? As Chazal say, he did, more damage that, he pushed the world back because they had learned their lesson from the Dora Mabul. Right? They were Godru Atzmam, so it was like psychologically. The strong holdout, the last holdout that was trying to live life like the Dor HaMabul, like in a small way, was Mitzrayim. They're trying to live somewhat, and that's why when the Torah commands against promiscuity, it's the parsha opens up, Kemase Eretz Mitzrayim Asher Yeshavtim Ba Lo Tasu. Don't do like the Egyptians, and it goes into the whole parsha of Arias. Right? Yeah, look, they just saw Sarah, they just took her right away. It was, they were very promiscuous people. That's what Yosef, he knew exactly what he was saying when he told the brothers, Liroses Ervas Haaretz Batem. The first say it was also literal erva. You come in here to watch, how get cheap thrills watching our promiscuity. Liros ervas haaretz. They were called ervas haaretz, right? And that's why their koach came from the Nilus. Their koach came from the Nile. That was one of their avodah zaros. Their koach came from the Nilus, and they're trying to drown, right? Dafka, the Jewish males in the water, and the very fact that they chose the males and not the females. So the Maharal explains this. And the Maharal says, because again, water erodes tzura, right? Now, they wanted to destroy the tzura that the Jewish people are bringing to us. We're teaching the world about law and order, tzura, right? So now they thought like this, aside without, Maharal says this all the time, that man is keneged tzura and woman is keneged chomer. They thought that they could just marry the Jewish ladies and impose their way of life on them, but it wouldn't work with the boys. So the boys, dafka hayeora tashlichu, to erode the tzura that Klal Yisrael is trying to bring to the world. Right? They were, Mitzrayim was the last holdout of the last remnant of something left of Dora Mabul. And that's the secret that Moshe Rabbeinu, his whole life is going up against water. Ki min hamayim mishisihu. He gets beyond the water, but at the end, basof loka b'mayim. Right, that was his lifelong battle against the mayim. Right, so his loka and may meruva, and that's what the Tztagir Par says, they saw Moshe and saw loka b'mayim, but he's battling against water, against, what's left of the Dora Mabul. The Dora Mabul was, meant to get Torah if they would have been worthy. And he's, battling against what's left of it. That's the secret. Moshe is also in the Teva. He's also in an ark. It's like the whole thing's happening over there, and it ends with Mitzrayim being drowned in the Yam Suf. Right? They have, their own personal Mabul because they were trying to be the last holdout of what was left of that door. Right? And when the Torah came to this generation was supposed to get Torah, just like the Torah was supposed to be given back then, and it canceled them out. Torah was supposed to be given to this generation, and it canceled out the Mitzrayim. That's what caused the came in tandem, came together. Torah coming down to earth, and then getting swamped and being removed from existence. Right? But there's a deeper vort, right, over here that says the Beis Yaakov from Ishbitza, and this will end off. Why HaKadosh Baruch Hu took a shvua, never to destroy the world again with a mabul, and he didn't. Why did he take that shvua at the time we created the world? He just made a world. Take a shvua, never to destroy it. Right? He waited till after the mabul. Right? So he says like this, a very interesting idea, aside from how the mabul affected mankind psychologically, like we explained, that it had a tremendous effect. And Mitzrayim was the last stubborn holdout that had to hold on, but the rest of humanity, got on board for a structured, morally structured lifestyle. But there's something else.
How many years was it from the Dura Mabu to, let's say, Kriyas Yam Suf?
About 1,500 years, roughly.
Was that long?
Yeah, roughly. 1,500 years. Yeah. Anyway, we said before, they had a perception that the world runs on chesed. If the world runs on chesed, chesed doesn't know distinctions. If you're about chesed, you give to everyone equally. In din, in judgment, you give everyone just exactly what he deserves, not more, not less. All right, chesed, there are no distinctions. Chesed, there's no obligations. Chesed, there's no boundaries.
What's going
Right?
on now? Chesed, there's no gender.
There's no gender. They didn't think there was gender either. They broke. I'm telling you,
That's why it's ironic that the rainbow, which is, I'm sure it's been said, the sign that God, that I'm not going to destroy the root, that it's become co-opted as a sign for that kind of lifestyle.
Right. Okay. But here's an amazing point. It's a very deep philosophical idea, and I'm not sure, maybe we can try to understand it together, how din, as it were, became be'etzem, a part of the framework of reality. Because I said, they knew chesed. They remember just 10 generations ago, God created the world out of nowhere. The world is being built on pure chesed. Why should there be avoda? Why should there be any gvura or din? Yeah. But then, that all makes sense, when, you get something for nothing. But what if you got something for nothing? I gave you something. Here, take it. It's yours now. You know what? Secondhand, give it back. Then I take it back. So what? You gave it to me already. Right? So now, when you first got it, you had no taina on it. It was a matana. Right? But after you got a matana, it's now legally yours. I'm not allowed to take it away. And if I do take it away, you have a taina. Right? So it could start as a chesed, but then it could become yours bedin. Right? In the Ishbitzer philosophy, the philosophy of the Meshiloach and the Beis Yaakov, in that dynasty, they talk about that this was really the function of what we say, Chazal tell us. It's not just in the Kabbalah, it's even in the Midrashim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu bona olamas umachrivan. HaKadosh used to create worlds and destroy them. Now, of course, it doesn't mean he was cruel, God forbid. But the philosophical idea, right behind it says in all the Ishbitzer Svarim is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to give you the right to daven. You have a taina, ki nisasani v'tashecheni. You rose me up, then you threw me down. Hey, bro, I took you out of the gutter. Yeah, but once you brought me up, don't put me back in the gutter. Now you have a taina. Now you can daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now you can have a concept of deserving. But if it's all, it comes out of nowhere, and that's where the whole story ends. Just getting out of nowhere, that's just chesed. But you got it, but then it was taken away. Well, now there's a taina. And now I could work to get it back because it was once mine. Now there's a taina. Now I could speak to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Oh, who you talk to HaKadosh Baruch Hu if you got something for nothing. But now there's a taina, right? Because I once had it, and now you took it away. Give it back.
It's the same concept like a Torah with a baby, they say, right? That you learn the Torah in your mother's womb, and then when you're born,
Right.
same
Exactly.
thing,
Right. That's right. It follows the same pattern.
Here,
What?
can you repeat?
You said the idea you learn the whole Torah in your mother's womb and then you forget it. Having once had it gives a taina, gives a legitimate claim, and that's din already. Claim is din. Just getting for nothing is chesed. But if it's withdrawn, right? If a claim, give it back. You gave it already. You can't, right? So it started with chesed, but now it's din, right? But now the relationship is din because I have a taina, I have a right to it because I once had it. And now I could build on that right to have it. I could build on that right and become deserving of it and earn it. So giving b'chesed, but then withdrawing it, creates a forum for din, earning, demanding, either davening for it, you have the right to daven for it, or it should be possible to earn it back, climb back to it, get there with work. But before then, there's no programming for work. You understand that? So that's what he says, the Ishbitza. Very interesting. That the world before the Mabul was a world of pure chesed. And the world didn't have any tinus, right? Because that's why Avodah was just so foreign to them. They didn't know any type of program called din or Avodah. Everything was just spoiled children. Spoiled children, right? And it works the other way. That's why, it says in Ishbitz an amazing word. That's why God was fully within his rights to destroy them totally. Because they had no schus to live. They didn't earn anything. There was no schuyot. Right? God will never destroy the world again because the world has a schus to exist. Right? The world has a schus to exist. Innately. From the fact that it existed once, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu destroyed it by the Mabul, but something was left of that world. No other children, they come to Ribosh with a taina, give it back. But now din already is innately part of the framework of reality. Right? That the world is we want to get back we want to reclaim. Like the Torah that you had in your mother's womb and you lost, you want to reclaim. It creates that the Mahalach now is bedin. The world has, so even if people aren't performing so well, but the world has a taina, right? The right to exist. Ki nesasani v'tashecheni. You raise me up and now you throw me away, right? That's a taina. The world now has a taina, right? So now the world has a taina, the Rebbe Shem can't destroy the world ever again, right? No matter how long say it, because they have a claim to life. Right? But in a world that was kulo chesed and there was never any other program, there's no claim on life. So that's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu was justified in wiping them out. Aside from the fact that they deserved it. Right? They had no claim on life. They had no claim. It was all chesed. In chesed, there's no obligation in chesed. There's no obligation. Now there's obligation. They have a taina. Because they existed once and now that was withdrawn, they have the rights of reclaiming. And now, since the world has this nekuda of din, the right to daven and to work and to reclaim, that because of that, HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes the shore, the world should never be destroyed. Because the world has a schus kiyum, it has a claim on life. Right? Because now there's a metzius of din and avodah in the very framework, in the very, very workings of reality. The world, reality has a claim, has a taina, has a taina, the potential to make demands of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the rights of reclaiming. Okay, that's what I want to say. Any questions? Yeah.
Just in terms of, you mentioned that Moshe was lakav umayim, the name Riva.
Right.
You're saying that water is a metaphor for taiva. Mitzrayim, in other words, the
Right.
time is a makom of taiva, etc.
Yeah.
But how would we say maybe Riva fits into that framework? Is there any notion of taiva there, or where do we see taiva in connection to?
Well, no, over there, it's not taiva per se, but according to the Rambam, Moshe Rabbeinu's chet was that he got angry. He lost control. Kas. So even though it's not taiva, but he did lose control.
It's one of the three things that's what's in the Song of the
Right. No, it's but the point is that he is up against the water. Because he's going to bring Torah to the world, which is like the real water. But the real water comes first with obligations and gvulim and gedarim, and through that you get to the infinite, expanse, right? That's versus the fake water of wanting to just mayim zaydonim, the evil waters, are just like running with the taivas, and that's Moshe Rabbeinu, by no coincidence, who gives us the Torah, is also the one who destroys Mitzrayim. Right, the real water of Torah versus the fake water of running with your taivas uncontrolled.
What part do Goyim have in this whole picture?
What
You
part?
know, if
Right.
it's only halacha, if you have to, whatever, what's there?
Yeah, well, listen,
What is
initially,
What was the question?
the question, what role do Goyim have in all this?
in this
Well, they have
makeup?
their halachos. They have the halachos of the
Yeah,
seven
but-
mitzvahs.
Right.
But it's not-
They're also Yetzirah.
They have 7 mitzvahs. Which one of them is dinin? They have to have a justice system. right? Right, legal immigration, right? Right, right, legal immigration, et cetera, et cetera. So let's have a justice system, right? But that's also the point that the truth is that the Bnei Noach, now since we're getting into, we say the remes to Moshe Rabbeinu was by the Dor HaMabul. So it's a it's an interesting point that you've raised. I'm glad you raised it. Really, I'm very glad you raised this because really, in the nations of the world that don't want to recognize Am Yisrael as the chosen nation and Jerusalem as our eternal capital, right? What are they thinking deep down? This the Sfarim says. I believe it's also in the Sfarim of the Ishbitzer also. They're thinking like this. No, the rainbow. HaKadosh Baruch Hu made a covenant with me just as much as the Jews. When he took the shvuah not to destroy the world, that's on me equally as them. They're not better than me. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, took his oath to never destroy the world, to us and to the Jews equally. Right? They think they have koach to endure lanetzach forever, because the shvuah that there was by the Mabul was on them just as much as Bnei Yisrael. But they're wrong. They're wrong because the whole step of Bnei Noach, right, is only a stepping stone, right? It's an intermediary step in the, for lack of a better word, the evolution of humanity to come to a higher level of Bnei Yisrael, right? So the Bnei Noach were necessary. There's this level called the Bnei Noach, right, which is immediately after the Mabul, but it was not its own goal. HaKadosh Baruch Hu took the shvuah to the Bnei Noach in order to facilitate getting to a Moshe Rabbeinu. That's why the remes to Moshe Rabbeinu is by the Mabul, right? And the whole tachlis is to get to Moshe Rabbeinu, right? But humanity wasn't ready to go straight to Matan Torah. But it comes up in the very next Mishnah, in this Parak in Avos. The next Mishnah, Asar dos binoach vad Avram, lo yodeh kach parav shekol dos b'machzav barav, ad sheba Avram vinu v'notel schar kulam. Avram vinu gets the schar of all of them, all the 20 generations, including Noach and his children. Avram Avinu gets that schar. That means that the whole tachlis of those 20 generations is all to come to Avram Avinu. And of course, Avram Avinu for the purpose of getting to Moshe Rabbeinu, getting to a Matan Torah and to an Am HaNivchar. All right, so the Bnei Noach, they're, because of the downturn that humanity took, because first of Chet Adam Rishon originally, and then with further deterioration like the Dor HaMabul, we couldn't get back to Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov immediately. It was another 10 generation process. But the Bnei Noach is a means. It's an intermediary step of the refinement of humanity until there is, a higher level of those who are chosen from amongst humanity, the Am HaNivchar, and that's the real tachlis.
But would Adam have gotten Taryag? Was that at all ever part of the plan?
You would have gotten Torah. You would have gotten the Eitz Chaim. But the Sfarim say that he would have not necessarily had Taryag mitzvahs because they may not have been necessary. We need so many mitzvahs because there's so much impurity in the world that we rid the world of through the mitzvahs. If the world is more pure, you don't need as many mitzvahs, right?
So, but what's the step? Because you're saying that the Dor HaMabul,
Adam Arishan,
Dor HaMabul would have been zochah to Matan
Right.
Torah. So,
Right.
So
There was a
what
way
would
to
that
jump-
have entailed, though? In other words, Matan Torah would have been higher than Adam Arishon, or how would that, I'm trying to understand the process.
Well, it's hard to know because it didn't happen. It was a potential,
No,
right?
but I'm just saying, in other
Right.
words, the theory of it. In other words,
The
you're saying
theory of
it
it
would
is
have been
that-
Matan
yes.
Torah. That means
Right.
it would have been placed
Any-
at a higher
right.
level than Adam Arishon?
Right.
I'm trying to understand the
Yes,
evolution of the process.
it would have been. There could like we got Matan Torah, but even though we have Torah that Adam Rishon didn't have, but still we're starting on, as far as our personal level, we're starting much lower down the scale. We have a resource Adam Rishon didn't have, right? But our personal level is much lower than where he was before the sin.
I'm just saying, in other words,
Right.
the notion that Adam Arishon would not have gotten, in other words, that was pushed off. The Matan Torah was not given an initial to Adam. You're saying it was planned for later generations, not the initial generation of humankind. So I'm just wondering, why is that? Or is it because he sinned? Because he sinned, that, in other words, the initial plan was Adam Arishon would have been.
Okay, listen. I think I understand what you're saying. Look, the Ramchal says in Derech Hashem, after Cherem Rishon, it was fair game for any generation, any time to become the chosen people. Fair game, right? and he gave it like we learned, 10 generations,
But
and
why not just Adam? Why even the need for chosenness? Why not just all of humanity? Or Adam himself, or like, I'm not.
no, Adam after the sin fell, you
You're saying
know,
after the sin of the Lord, so he wasn't capable.
he wasn't capable anymore, but there was fair game for anyone to break out of the box, right? And then, but then by the Dora Floga, which was our next topic, right, in this series, the Dora Floga, as we're going to learn, HaKadosh Baruch Hu sealed, till the Dora Floga, even from Noach and his children, any one of them could have become the chosen people. At the Dora Floga, it got sealed, and
Sealed
and
what?
it's sealed that the only Avram Avinu and his descendants, and the potential for everyone to become the chosen people was closed to the rest of humanity.
So remind me where.
So indeed, initially they all had a fair chance. That's how initially, why were there billions of people in the world? Because all had a fair chance. Why are there now billions of people in the world? Really a lot of them are unnecessary. But right.
That's what Trump said today.
Right.
That's what Trump said today about Central America.
The Rambam talks about this in his Hakdamah D'Zroim. Why there's so many people in the world? They're useless. He says, listen, the bears have to eat somebody, right? Right. That's what it says. Keeps the animal population in check, right? In the Hakdamah to the Pirush HaMishnayos in D'Zroim, he contemplates, why are there billions of people in the world?
That's what he says because of the.
It is one of those. The Penyer Balecha Chayas sort of Mat Gershberg Penyer Becha. If the human population would shrink then the animal population would expand too quickly, and it would be dangerous. So we need these people to keep buffer, keep the bears in check. That's one of his.
They look at it just the opposite. That we're encroaching on them.
Right.
It wasn't.
Right.
I love that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, no. So prior to the Dora Floga, anyone could have equally been the Jewish people. At the Dora Floga, the gate was sealed.
Was Abram born?
Right.
Was Abram born at that point?
Yeah, he was born already. Yes, he was born already. The Dora Floga got sealed, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu justifying this, and the Ramchal says this, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu justifying that no one should accuse him of being unfair, that he sealed off the Goyim, from becoming the chosen people. And that's why not Taka Kasha, why they're around, right? That HaKadosh should take off any claim of injustice. That is why he offered them the Torah at the time of Matan Torah also. He was vindicating himself. You see, you guys don't want it anyway, either. They was vindicating, HaKadosh was vindicating himself for what he had done by the Dora Floga, as we will learn Be'ez Hashem in the next installment. Okay, thank you very much.